Alright, Captain America 409 by Marky Mark G and Ricardo Leavenworth. We have Captain America versus Bane. The cover could be so much better. It is a great idea, but it's not really executed well, which is a microcosm of Ricardo Leavenworth's art overall. I am sure I read somewhere that Ricardo Leavenworth started out working with Junior Senior's Raiders. What was he doing with them? Was he just getting their coffee in the morning for them? I find it hard to believe the artist who did this cover was ever correcting or fixing other artists' cover layouts to improve them. Captain America is going after Rachel Diamond in this one. She has been missing for a while, and now he is heading out to find her. She has been kidnapped by Bane once again, and she has been his prisoner for about a year now, which is brutal. It doesn't reflect well on Captain America that he went off and had Capwolf all the while Rachel Diamond was chained up in a rapist's dungeon. Robert the subscriber should appreciate that we continue on Dr. Droom's team up with Captain America. Dr. Droom uses his mystical abilities to let Captain America know Rachel Diamond isn't just missing, but she is a prisoner of Bane. That's about as far as his help goes. He doesn't want to go along with them in search of her because he claims there isn't any supernatural element, so he wouldn't be of much use, aka there's nothing that interests him, so he won't help out. There is actually a few Dr. Droom team-ups to squeeze in here. There is an appearance in Galactical Guardians that happens in between Captain America 408 and 409. There is Affinity Wars. Captain America brings him into that. And then there is Citizen Kronos, which is harder to place because it seems before Capwolf, before Dr. Droom reacquainted himself with Captain America and the Avengers. That's actually a plot point in Citizen Kronos. Dr. Droom goes to Fantastic Force because he knows that the Avengers won't trust him. But then Captain America 408 implies that Citizen Kronos is after Capwolf and Affinity Wars. I think the cleanest order is Operation Galaxy Quest / Captain America 401, Citizen Kronos, Capwolf, Affinity Wars, Galactical Guardians, and then this one. Rather than the esteemed Dr. Droom, Falcon Man is our team-up ally for this story. Captain America's former sidekick in an all-new costume designed by Ricardo Leavenworth. We also have Moonhugger from Capwolf. He has been brought into the Avengers to act as Captain America's pilot. We don't focus on Moonhugger ever again. He doesn't even get a bit of spotlight. He feels like a glorified plot mechanic. We need a pilot to take Captain America places. and one without any character or story. And there should be some story there, because Moonhugger still requires a large degree of redemption, but we never get that. Here, though, he is flirting with the Avengers' receptionist, Donna Maria Puentes. And of course I am going to explain who she is, when this is one of her very few appearances. She originates from Jack Quimby's 70s run on Captain America. She was introduced in 206. And part of the reason I thought to spend some time on her is because that was back when it was Captain America and Falcon Man, which works with this issue bringing that partnership back. There was this dictator who ran slave camps, the Swine. He was called the Swine. I don't remember his real name, but she was his cousin, his cousin. She was eye candy. Whoa, lads, look at that. And she was against her cousin and his treatment of the slaves. Not enough to do anything herself, but she egged him on to try his luck against Captain America, who had wound up in one of his slave camps. Partly through the continuing nature of Jack Quimby's stories at the time, after the Swine is dealt with, Donna Maria continues to appear. She is in many of those issues, tagging along with Captain America. She is on many covers too, like the first appearance of Toby Jones. She is on that cover, and in that story, which continues on from the last one and the last one before that. Jack Quimby was freestyling. He was making it up as he was going along. But I think the intention was that Donna Maria was meant to be built up as a new love interest for the title star. There's not much chemistry between them. She just happens to be there a lot of the time. There doesn't seem to be much, if any, romantic tension. She does stand up to Toby Jones at one point. She is fiery like that. It's another case of Jack Quimby doing a woman that is based on his wife. She is so conspicuous in those, though. You'd think that following Jack Quimby's departure from the series, that she would at least be addressed in the following issues. Either she'll make a few appearances before leaving, or they'll point out that she went back to Rio de Muerta, but she's instead just gone. I think even Jack Quimby forgets about her in his final issue. She would never have appeared again if it weren't for Marky Mark G. Her return came 10 years later in Avengers 300, where she was confirmed to now be employed by the Avengers as their secretary in an Andy book profile included at the back of the issue. We only ever see her appear in Marky Mark J comics. She is in earlier issues of Captain America, often unnamed. And one of her more notable appearances is at the start of Kazar 41, when Blue Marvel tries to take Kazar's place on the Avengers. God, I wish Steve Lightbulb had drawn that one. I wish Steve Lightbulb hadn't been fired by Michael Rockford. Instead, we have Andy Shit. Come to think of it, around about the same time as Avengers 300, she was also at the back of Captain America 350. She was on a pin-up of the many women of Captain America. I feel stupid having spent so long of this video explaining a very minor character who doesn't have any bearing on this issue. But it is part of Marky Mark G's approach. There was this odd character who one day disappeared, and so he has found a small role for her. She never appears again after Marky Mark G's time. The big fanboys like Kurt Busey and Martin Quaid, they don't care about Donna Maria Puentes. They ate that Jack Quimby run too, the 70s run. They ate it because Captain America doesn't spend all of it crying about Bunky. But here we have Rachel Diamond and a metric ton of exposition. If you thought me explaining Donna Maria was dense, Rachel Diamond fills you in on how she was captured by Bane and brought to Red Skull Man as a prisoner, how she found out Cuthbert is her estranged brother, and the vendetta between him and Bane. And we have the aftermath of last issue's fight. Red Skull Man comes down and sees the body, and he wants answers. He wants to know what happened here. What happened here was Bane murdered Cuthbert after a short fight, but he must have just fallen on his sword or something. Like the last time that Rachel Diamond was held captive by Bane, she is going to escape by herself. It is less impressive this time since she has spent so many issues tied up and brutalised by him. I really don't like how much Marky Mark G has Rachel Diamond suffer in the lead up to this. There's some element of attempted brainwashing and reprogramming. Earlier, she thinks of Bane as her boyfriend, and I hate that. But as she breaks free, we have this page which presents some of the worst placement problems possible. 6 hours ago, according to this, D-Man was still fighting his Affinity Wars double gagger. So we have to apparently fit that entire crossover and then a bunch of other stories and appearances after it into 6 hours. D-Man is another one where I don't much care for it. In this period, Marky Mark J, he was having quite nasty things happen to characters we didn't want nasty things to happen to. D-Man is practically catatonic. He is mute. He is mentally damaged after months spent frozen in the Antarctic. People had been writing in for ages asking them to bring D-Man back, but I don't think they wanted a brain-damaged ox that nobody but Steve treats with respect. This D-Man shit actually ends up digging up some other Jack Quimby stuff too. Mark's better writing during this time was the villains. He was writing Red Skull Man and Red Skull Man's agents, all as rounded characters. Here we have Mother Superior and Mac and Cheese Smith. We learn that Mother Superior was responsible for tipping Bane off, that Cuthbert planned to deal with them. So she feels responsible for Cuthbert's death. And then Mac and Cheese Smith, he is an oddly compassionate set of ears for her. We haven't seen Mac and Cheese Smith in a while. I think not since the trial of Red Skull Man's story. Maybe that could be another criticism. Like with most writers, Marky Mark J would frequently forget about certain characters. Mac and Cheese Smith, the Sleeper, Minister Blood, who I had to explain in the comments last time. He almost never appears. And then there's the Voice. What happened to him? And then we have a proper formal meeting of the Saw Skellington crew, where Darkwing says that he buried Cuthbert's body somewhere that no one will ever find it. They do, and he's somehow alive. None of these villains, which include professionals like Red Skull Man and Bane, none of them noticed that he was still breathing. I talked about it last time, so I won't go on and on about it again. But it really does bother me enough that I wanted to mention it again. And the thing is, Michael Bryan Benson did that with so many villains. He had them show up in the background of a scene, even though they were dead, and they wouldn't even have lines of dialogue or anything. And then a few years later, he did Sacred Evasion, and that would have been a perfect opportunity to correct things and make it even seem like what was a mistake was maybe intended. You say the Cuthbert who was in the background was a Skrull. But no, doesn't do that, and he just continues to do it. Look, there's Darkout, he's been dead since the 80s. There's Hobgoblin. There isn't even a current Hobgoblin at the time of this. We continue on with Rachel Diamond's Break for Freedom. Wouldn't she have been better off trying this when it was just Bane holding her prisoner? Now she has about 5 villains she has to escape from. And then this bit is ridiculous. She clocks Mother Superior and takes her costume to allow her to move about Red Skull Man's fortress more easily. It ends up not being necessary either. Captain America and Falcon Man, they are floating around in the sky, not accomplishing anything. And so here is Rachel Diamond kicking Darkwing's butt. Great one here. Love seeing her kick someone's arse. And then she steals his glider to facilitate her escape. This could be great. It's not though. The other story was better. It's sad to see a writer do the same thing again. And he's made it bigger too. But it's worse this time around. What happens is that this skybound scuffle between Rachel Diamond and the Saw Skellington crew is picked up by Captain America's scanners. It's not a very well structured story. This entire bit here is just an excuse to have Captain America find out where to go. And then she is recaptured, and I think Bane stabs her in her spine here. That's not very nice, and it should cripple her for life. But it is an injury that never gets brought up again. This is where we get to absolutely stupid ideas. Bane uses Rachel Diamond as a guinea pig for a transfusion of Captain America's blood, which contains the super soldier syrup. He had Rachel Diamond steal some of Captain America's blood a few issues back when she was being held as his captive. He forced her to do that. He intended for Red Skull Man to have it, but they needed a guinea pig first, and the moron has chosen someone who already nearly escaped without super soldier syrup in her veins. There's Donna Maria again, though. Ricardo Leavenworth always had an odd habit of framing random images as bigger than they needed to be. You would think Pumpkin King was saying something important here, or declaring something important, but he's not. He's just saying, let's go finish wiring this place. Weird choice. Maybe originally the script had different dialogue where this composition was right. But Ricardo Leavenworth did do this a lot during his run. Now, Captain America is there, and Falcon Man too. And the next issue is our long-awaited big showdown with Red Skull Man's Soul Skeleton crew. I will let you know, I absolutely ate a part of next issue. It was the exact moment where, when I was reading these for the first time, I finally went, yeah, Marky Mark G has dipped. I got through Capwolf. I was always willing to forgive Capwolf. It was never good, but people make mistakes. It was 410 that had that big glass shattering moment where I felt like he had lost it. This is a terrible issue to review too, because it's a complete mess. It allows for Marky Mark G to work in the corner that has been his better scripting during this time. But it seems when you take that and put it into the main spotlight, then the more pages he has to feature those characters is the more pages he has to work in silly plot beats or frustrating plot contrivances. At this juncture, maybe Marky Mark G worked better at 5 to 8 pages. It tightened things up, and it meant that he didn't have space to have like a false escape or D-Man or Moonhugger flirting with Donna Maria Puentes. It sounds like I dislike this issue a bit more than I do though. I'm giving it 7 thumbs up.